welcome back. We're talking about Return of the Living Dead just now, which is a Dan O'Bannon directorial debut released in the mid 80s, which was a moderate hit. And it created some sequels. Now, the sequels never did that well. The sequels were always kind of disappointing because the second one has a reputation of being a disaster, even though I know somebody who loves it and thinks it's the best one. But that's his problem. I've never actually seen it, but I like been dismissive. Brian did the third one, and there's some other ones been released recently. They're kind of like they're rebooting it at the moment. So it's one of those things where they made a first film, it took forever to follow up a second film, and by that point the fad had gone, and it was like, well, no one's interested anymore, rather than pushing forward pretty quick. So Return of the Living Dead was meant to be a sequel to Night of the Living Dead because there was a rights issue once the first film was done. So basically, I think John Russo had the rights to the Living Dead name, so he could do sequels with the name Living Dead, while George Romero could also do sequels, but he would just use Dead rather than Living Dead in his sequels. And basically, the George Romero sequels did really well. Dawn of the Dead, Day of the Dead, Land of the Dead, The Diary of the Dead, Survivors of the Dead. I mean, there's the Dawn of the Dead and Day of the Dead are really well regarded. I like his other Dead films too. Some people don't like them as much. I do, but still, Romero as a godfather of the zombie film was like everyone who does a zombie film has to pay homage to him. He's the god of that genre. Even though there's zombie films before him, he's the one that brought it all together into the right format for that genre to move forward. So every film, even like 28 Days Later type of films, all pay homage to Romero. I mean, 28 Days Later had the military men going mad in the second half, which is Day of the Dead. And in the 20 years later, they've got the island of survivors, which is Survival of the Dead. So there's lots of influences by Romero throughout. So this one, it was like Russo had the rights to do The Living Dead, so he would do a sequel. Outlines were written, and then they asked Toby Hooper to direct it, but he backed out pretty quickly to do Life Force, which is another weird film which I've covered, and it's wonderful, but very strange, which was written by Dan O'Bannon, at least initially, and I think they rewrote quite a lot of it. But Dan O'Bannon liked Hooper enough, he ended up doing writing on Invaders from Mars, so it wasn't like it was a falling out or anything. But when Hooper was dropped out, they asked O'Bannon to come in and just do a rewrite of the script, and then when the directorial it became available, the directing position became available, and O'Bannon wanted to direct. They asked him to direct, and he said, "I will, as long as I can do more rewrites to make it much more standalone, in the sense of it will reference the first film, but we'll have our own rules for it, and we'll not just do a standard copy of Night of the Living Dead," which they were fine with because Romero was about to come out with Day of the Dead at the same time, so it would help differentiate both films from each other. And I think this one did. Return of the Living Dead did better than Day of the Dead, even though Day of the Dead's a better film. But that's what happens with films. Sometimes you're just unlucky. So, the film was made, it came out and did well. It was a low budget film that did very well on the kind of indie film circuit and made a good profit, which led to other films. Now, I always thought I had never seen Return of the Living Dead. Then I watched, and I was like, I must have seen this when I was a teenager from the video shop, because I know this film. You know, it's that thing, is like, I mean, sometimes the same music, you think, I've never heard that CD, and then you hear it, and you're like, yeah, I've heard that CD. I just forgot the name of it. I'm bad with names. So that's why I definitely had seen this film, but I'd forgotten I'd seen it. And it's a fun movie. That's the big thing about it. Dan O'Bannon, it's more interesting for who made it and why it was made than the film itself, because Dan O'Bannon had an interesting career. He started off with John Carpenter doing Dark Star, which is one of my favourite films. It's just wonderful. Even though it was meant to be a student film that got blown up and became a big release film, that Carpenter wasn't very happy with that happening because it made the special effects looked impressive and it looked weak in comparison. But it's still a charming film. I think Carpenter's way too hard on it. But that's the way people are with their own stuff. So, here you go. They had a falling out, him and Carpenter had a falling out over the credit because he wanted to be a co-director in that film, and Carpenter thought that he'd done a lot in the film. He'd done a lot of effect stuff and they'd done a lot of work on it and then the acting, but he wasn't the person directing it. So he said, no, you're not getting director's credit. That's my credit. So they fell out over that and they never came back together. And that's a shame, but it's also that's the way it happens. Then O'Bannon moved on. Well, Carpenter went to do Assault on Precinct 13 Halloween. O'Bannon went to work on Jodorowsky's Dune, which fell apart. Then he spent time developing as a writer and he wrote Alien, which obviously was bought and became a big hit. So suddenly he became an in-demand writer for a time. He also wrote with Ron Shusett, who wrote Alien with him. He also wrote Total Recall, the original drafts. That moved on to various directors, and then Paul Verhoeven directed it. And by the time the film had been filmed and released, Bannon still got credit as a writer because he was with it. He was like, what he'd done was so important to it that you couldn't really take away the credit because he was instrumental. So even though a film he hadn't touched for years, he still got credit. And whenever there's an Alien film, he still gets a credit, and his estate will still get money because he was the original writer of this franchise. Which I'm sure came in handy for him over the years. Getting money from Alien would probably always come in handy, and Alien vs Predator and all the rest of it. So, mid-80s he finally, after having like films like Blue Thunder and Life Force written and then rewritten by other people, he got to direct Return of the Living Dead and do it the way he wanted, which was to make it a comedy. The idea of Romero did it serious, and then Romero did it satire in Dawn of the Dead. So where else can you go with it but into just pure parody? So that's what he did. The idea is the Living Dead come back through these canisters, gas canisters, which are released and which will turn human beings into zombies. And the zombies want brains, and they say they can't live without brains. It's painful for them to live. They don't have any brains to eat because death is painful. Which feels very. A lot of the setup of the monsters feel very reminiscent of the monsters in Life Force. The idea of they have to drain the life of people as well to survive. So obviously he was going back to an idea, but he was doing it his way. And this one was done better than Life Force. I like Life Force more because Life Force is so ridiculous and weird. But this one's still enjoyable. There's punk characters who step in and step out of the film and say at various points. They're the human characters you're meant to identify with. And some of them are cowards and some of them are okay. Because a pal is one of the people who are originally infected and they're coming to pick him up from after work. And so they get involved and end up in a cemetery waiting for him. When the cemetery gets covered with this acid rain, it turns the dead into zombies. So they're waiting in the wrong place, and yeah, it's just like a farce. Basically, these chemicals that were created that turned people into zombies in the first Night Living Dead film have been stopped and stored away, but the military being idiots lost them. They end up down at the bottom of this medical supply factory. They've accidentally opened. People get infected. They try and burn the body of a recently dead who's come back to life. They kill it, but it's still moving. So they say, well, we have to do something. So they take it to the local crematorium, which is next door to them, and they burn it. Unfortunately, they burn doesn't help. Basically, what burning it does is like basically puts the infection up into the air. When it rains, the infection comes down into the soil, which brings up more living dead. And when they bite people, they become the living dead. They also want to get the brains of people and eat the brains. So that leads to the zombies saying brains, brains. When George Romero would shoot them in the head to kill the zombies, but in the new one they want brains to eat brains, and you've got plenty of shots of them attacking people and going straight for the head and ripping over their skull and eating their brains. Fun stuff. But this is more of a comedy. You've got people doing really stupid things, but it's meant to be funny. It's not meant to be taken seriously. It's like, this is how dumb people can be in crises. Rather than saying, oh, whoa, what are they doing? It's like, yeah, people are idiots. They end up going to get help from the crematorium guy who's in sweatsuit stuff doing his job, and he has to deal with the living dead as well. He's got guns and he's got he's the most proactive person there trying to kill the zombies. So the action quite slow budget goes back and forth between the initial warehouse that held the canisters and the crematorium, which is across the road, and the cemetery. And people end up coming there, more zombies come there, and that becomes the hellscape of the movie, or the comic hellscape of the movie, is the people try and get out of this like siege location and fail horribly. Like, everything they do is wrong. Everything anyone does is wrong, and it just leads to more and more chaos. It's like, if anyone's an idea, you should just say, just don't do it. It's not worth it. You know, it's just full of idiocy. Now, I've got to say, I enjoyed the film, but it's not a film I'm going to watch tons of times. I like a lot more abandoned stuff he did as a writer, like Total Recall, Dark Star, where he was also an actor, Alien, even Life Force. They just seem more personality based in a way that in Return of the Living Dead, I get the feeling more seasoned director would have pulled back on some of the jokes a little bit more to give it a bit more of a balance as a film. In this film, it seems that they're going so much for the jokes that there's no threat whatsoever. Like, every zombie attack is a joke, basically. Everything's done played for humour, played for the one-liner. There's no threat whatsoever. When they're attacking any houses, you don't feel any threat. You just want to see the next special effect. There's no suggestion of threat, which suggests that maybe a band needed editors to kind of, like, he had lots of ideas, but he needed people to kind of say, bring the audience along with you. Because this film, if you want to be, it's a film for people who want to be smart ass about watching zombie movies. It's not for people who want to enjoy a zombie movie and be frightened in any way. It just doesn't work that way. But it was just fine for what it is. But for me, I like zombie movies to be a bit more, the zombies are a threat. And this one, you kind of got the joke by the halfway point. And it's almost like it's trying to be a Larry Cohen film, but not quite as inventive as a Larry Cohen film. Larry Cohen films tend to be weirder and have weirder subtext in it, and they may be rough around the edges compared to this, which seems to have more money involved. But they also have more ideas than this. This film has one idea, basically, is the zombies are in pain and need the brains to get out of pain. And the rest of it just feels like a chemical warfare film and people being idiots, and it doesn't really have much in the way of like amazing writing. It just feels like it's O'Bannon, the director, stuck with one of O'Bannon's weaker scripts, or maybe he had limitations to what he could do and he couldn't go so far with certain things. But you get the actors are having fun. The acting is generally pretty good for this kind of film. You can tell that they're enjoying themselves. They're all getting some good one-liners. But it's just like there's the idea of the two guys who are infected, they're slowing into zombies over the film. They kind of have the personality at the start, and then even before they turn into zombies, they've basically become like nobodies, and it becomes like, well, these characters are just like dead weight, you know, which they literally will become. But the thing is that they're not really developed as in what's happened to these guys as they're slowly turning. It just becomes like they're, you know, they're there, and there's no real inventiveness in the writing with that. And the same with they set up the owner of the place, the medical supply place. He becomes like the hero of the film, even though he's an older guy who doesn't know what he's doing. But he's not developed in a way that's that interesting. It's like Clu Kalanga plays him, and he's a good actor, so he does a lot of his personality, and as a lot of the actors do. But it's like he's not really developed much in the sense of keeping his guy interesting. It's like you're just relying on the actor to keep it going. So that's kind of the problem with the film, is that I found it to be kind of, you know, the one joke went a long way, and I'm not sure why you really want to watch the sequels, because like by the time you get to the end of the film, the joke's been done. It's like there's nothing else there. It's just like, it's just so broad. So I had fun with the film, but it's not like astonishing. And now I know why I probably never rewatched it. I forgot I'd seen it, because it was like, it's there, it exists, but it's not like top level zombie film, at least for me. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed this video. That's me for now. Bye.